Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. I have a headache, but other than that, it's great. And yesterday, boy, oh boy, did I feel like an imposter. You know, creative types. I consider myself a creative. Um, I think we've all experienced imposter syndrome at some point in our lives. We've all experienced, and maybe even that might apply to everybody, not just creative types, but just people who have a certain skill set that other people don't have, and to you it feels like it's a normal thing, and to them it's magic, and you're just like, I'm not that magic person you think I am, and you just, you end up finding yourself tackling situations that you weren't prepared for, and imposter syndrome kicks in, and you're just like, wait, is this really worth what I'm doing? Is my time worth this or whatever? You want to take that to the next level as a developer? Switch languages and framework all at once. Just go for it. And boy, does everything fall apart, right? I felt like a complete hack yesterday. And when I talk to people about my programming skills, I am a hack. And I tell them that. I'm a hack. And I'm going to do hacky things because I've never been properly trained. I've been a professional PHP developer now for 8 years, I think. Prior to that, I took 15 years off from programming. I was a programmer in the Marine Corps by accident. I was a programmer from the time I was about 8 or 9 until then. And then when I became a programmer in the Marine Corps, I lost interest in it because it became a job and it became something I had to do and I hated it. And so I just didn't program for like 15 years. So it's only been within the last 8 years that I've been doing it again. Prior to learning PHP 8 years ago and developing websites for my company and other schools and that sort of thing, the only experience I had was I knew HTML and CSS, so I could make a nice HTML CSS website. But prior to that, the 15 years, 20 years ago when I was in the military, it was all Visual Basic. I was doing desktop apps. And where we are today from where we were then is vastly different, and what I'm working on now is vastly different than the PHP stuff I've been doing. And I've used PHP frameworks. I've used Laravel, so I'm familiar with the model view client. I'm familiar with database structure. I'm familiar with all of those things, right? And so when somebody says, "Can you can you take this page and add some functionality to it?" I go, "Yeah, I can do that," and I can. So what happened yesterday? We met a little bit about next steps for the side project, and the project owner's suggestion was, why don't you take this new feature request and see if you can do it? And he's like, for reference, he gave me his reference. He said, this would take me an hour to do. I don't expect it to take you an hour. I expect it to take you significantly longer. It's a two-part thing. He gave me a little hint. He said, why don't you do this part first, because you need that part in order to do the other part, and so then you can, apply what you learned. And I said, okay, that sounds even simple. And so basically what it comes down to is a component on the site, I needed to modify its behavior so that it can do extra. That's it. And in my head, I knew exactly the steps I needed to take. Right? As a programmer, I know, all right, when I click this button, I now want it to bring up this, dialogue or this drop down or whatever. I need you to select a thing. I need you to be able to submit that selection. And now I'll take the original data and the new selection and use that to make whatever it is I need to make, right? And I know the steps, sequentially that need to happen for that to work and not break. But understanding how to write that in a new, I shouldn't say new programming language. Vue is written in JavaScript, but it's a very different way of thinking about JavaScript for me. I'm used to just including scripts on a page and doing, jQuery targeting stuff. So this is a very, very, very different way of doing it, especially when you attack Vuex, which is their state management engine on the side, which I need to use. I need to be able to bind stuff and get it. And so After about 4 hours yesterday, I had the functionality kind of working in the hackiest way possible. That's not true. No, I didn't have it working by the end of yesterday. What I had to decide to do was I knew the steps. Like I said, I knew that I needed to do this, this, and this. And so by the end, by the end of the evening, Em and I was playing. We played Magic. We ate dinner. I went back to it, just like I can't do this, and my brain wants to just run away with the idea. All right, well, what if we do this and this and this and this and this? And so I could have sat there until midnight, hacking away on this thing, trying to figure it out. But instead, what I did was I went to the code. I went to what I had that was working. I had the pop-up working. I had the buttons working. I had the submit events working. I knew that I had the correct IDs moving through the process, the correct objects moving through the process. I just didn't understand how to take that information and put it back and modify it. I needed to put it in and modify it. So I just wrote some comments. Do this, do this, do this, do this. That's the steps I know that I need to figure out. And then I went to bed. And this morning I woke up, and before work started, I worked on it for about a half an hour, and I had it working. I woke up and I looked at my notes and I went, yep, okay, I think I understand how to do that. Let's try and just copy and paste this code and see what works. And it worked. Cool. Now I just need to figure out how to make it work this way. That worked. Like in a half an hour, I had 99% of the functionality. There's still a couple of key components missing, and I feel like I'm probably doing extra. I'm probably doing, because I don't quite understand. Oh, not only that, not only am I learning a new framework, which is Vue, there's also this whole web services application that he built that I have to learn how it works. I have to learn its API. I have to, so it's like, I felt like a complete idiot. 4 hours to do this thing that, had this been a PHP website, probably would have taken me less than an hour, like 15 minutes, we would have been done. But instead, I have to learn all this back end. I have to learn how the REST API is handling these calls. I have to learn, I went searching to try to find a one-shot way of doing it. Right now, I'm doing it in 2 steps, and I feel like that's a complete hack. And when we meet today, I'm probably going to be like, there's got to be a more efficient way of doing this instead of making asynchronous calls and waiting on each other. But boy, did I feel stupid. And when I sat down this morning, I was like, I got this. Like I knew, okay, I don't know why yesterday was such a struggle, and I think it was one of those moments in time where I wasn't able to see the forest through the trees. Have you ever heard that phrase? Like, I was just signaling. I was diving too deep into specifics, and not really thinking about what the actual end goal was. And so this morning, with fresh eyes, it was just like, oh yeah, I probably should have taken a break yesterday at like 2 hours, and I would have figured it out. But we got there. It's working. Half the functionality, I still need to do the other half, but this half works, and it works well, and it could go into production that way. Probably won't. I think that, like I said earlier, I'm doing it in 2 steps, and I feel like there's probably a 1-step way of doing it, and I want to find that out today. That's my big goal. And there's a couple little UI things I'm not quite getting to work, so. I'm having a blast, though. Like, truthfully, at the end of the day, at the end of me spending 4 hours staring at this code, my brain was hurting, and I was tired, and I was upset. That was great. Like, it really felt great. It felt like, oh, this is why I got into this, right? This is why I got into development. I really like the challenge. I really like the learning. I've learned a lot, and my entire life it's been self-taught. I've had no formal education on programming. That might not be true. I think I did take a 1-semester class for my AA that was not, we didn't do any actual programming. We did whatever it's called when you whiteboard your program in plain English. We did that. There's a name for it, and I forget what it is because I didn't care for it. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is nouveau riche. It is an adjective and a noun meaning a person who has recently acquired wealth. The most distinguished families in the club snubbed him because he was nouveau riche. Nouveau riche. Nouveau space Riche. So I'm assuming that's French, right? And is riche French for rich? Because it looks like rich with an E on the end. So why couldn't you just say nouveau rich? Like, that makes sense to me.